That's what he said. And so we're looking at 16 trillion debt. We're looking at the president's budget that's late now, but the one from last year that got 0 votes in the House or Senate, not even the most liberal Democrats voted for it, had 10 trillion of new debt. So it'll be 26 trillion in the next 10 years. And he has the proposed one this year, so I'll use that one. And so the question really is, I'm a baby boomer, just turned 49 yesterday. And when I'm 65, 21 million more Americans will be on retirement when I'm in 16 more years. So the question is our generation, if you're a baby boomer, going to be the one that George Washington was warning about? We've been through 224 years. We've had debt in the past, I get it, but not like we have now. And so we've gone 224 years, so that's 11 or 12 generations of Americans, and is ours going to be the one that puts the burden on our children more than they can bear? Because I'm telling you, the crisis is coming. Now, the president said in his State of the Union speech, if y'all watched it, he said, we got to quit governing from manufactured crisis to manufactured crisis. So he's talking about the CR, the debt limit. We're now facing the sequester, another CR, and another debt limit. But the point that I want to make is that we are in a crisis with our spending already. Paul Ryan always says, we know this crisis is coming. Either we can manage it, or we can let it swamp us. But one of these days we're going to wake up and China's not going to want to buy our bonds, our credit rate is going to be default, our interest rates are going to go up. And we won't be able to, we'll be able to pay it, but it's going to crowd out everything else we need to do in government if we don't address it. So over the next few weeks, it's not a manufactured crisis. We're in it. What we're trying to do is use, and then to top it off, the president mentioned the debt once in his inaugural speech, barely. He sort of mentioned it in his State of the Union speech, but he kind of accused us in a very accusatory speech. He wasn't one to reach out and work. And I know the economists that he listens to, so the question is, does he even think it's a problem? And he doesn't even appear to think it's really a big problem. So here we are on our side, the Republicans in the majority in the House, saying this is the problem of our time. I think that's self-evident, honestly, to use another founding father's term, where the president doesn't think he really needs to address it over the next 4 years. So we have to use these points where, that gives us leverage to go, that tries to bring the Senate, which is not trying to address the problem, not our senators, and the White House. And so the first one up is the sequester. Now the debt limit was supposed to hit in February, and we moved it to May, and I had some people go, why don't you move the debt limit without cutting? Now the sequester that we're talking about March the 1st pays for the last debt limit. We did August a year and a half ago. So the option of not doing anything is over because Harry Reid's proposed to do something next year. Let's not deal with it now, let's deal with it next year. Well, we're dealing with it now because we didn't deal with it last year. So what's going to be different next year? And somebody could come to me and say, well, it's going to be different next year, we're really going to solve the problem. Then maybe we would, but there's nothing to say it's going to be different. So we need to face it down now. They were supposed to happen January the 2nd, and it got delayed in the fiscal cliff bill. So if we're not now, when are we going to solve it? And it is across the board cuts. Half coming from the military, half coming from other programs, which I think is pretty strong cuts on the military, and other programs as well. But we've already spent the money. We've already spent the money. And so we moved the debt limit because what you'll hear the senators say, well, they should just give us time to pass a budget. Now, they haven't passed a budget in 4 years, but give us time to pass a budget. And that's a fair point because it's a new Senate. And give them the chance. If they're going to pass the budget, give them the chance. What we decided to do is let the debt limit be the point where they have to pass the budget. So they need to pass the budget back to us around May the 19th. And that's when the debt limit expires. And so then we could argue on the sequester, which is better than arguing over, will we default? Will the stock market crash? So we thought we were in a better position to try to really address what we think is a big issue, and that's spending. Because remember, we've already raised taxes. The president campaigned on raising taxes. That happened in the fiscal cliff bill. He wanted $250,000 or more to pay more, $450,000 or more to pay more, so about $60 billion of new tax revenues coming in the fiscal cliff bill. Now, nobody ever asked him in the campaign, if he got everything that he wanted, that he campaigned on, it would have been $80 billion instead of $60. So we're $20 billion short of what he talked about. But it doesn't even cover the decimal point on the deficit. Our deficit is $1.1 trillion. So even if he got everything he wanted, you still had to address other problems. And here's the point to it. It's in retirement spending of baby boomers. That's what it is. It's retirement spending of baby boomers. And Ross Perot in 1992, if anybody remembers him, stood around with his charts and said, we're going to have the baby boomers retiring and we got to address it now. Well, since 1992, to be fair to everybody, you've had a Republican president, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, and you've had Republican Congresses, Democrat Congresses, mixed Congresses. So if you want to pick a party to blame, you can pick one, because neither has addressed it. But if you're born in 1946 to 1964, that's my birth year, you're a baby boomer. If you're born in 1946, when we did the first Ryan budget 2 years ago, you reached 65. So the baby boomers are coming on Medicare 10,000 a day. As I said, 21 million more people will be retired when I'm 65. Now Medicare people pay into it. For every $1 you pay for, you get 3 back. Now that worked in the 1960s when we had big families. How many of you can feel, my family, that's it. My mother-in-law's one of 7. My father-in-law's one of 11. My dad's one of 6. My mom's one of 2. I have to be fair. She's from town. So my dad owned a grocery store. Any farm labor. But of the 6 kids my grandmother had, now how many of you have this in your family? My grandmother had 6 kids. Out of 6 kids, she had 11 grandkids. Now one was killed in the Korean War, so you have 11 paying for 5. Now if all 6 had 6, you'd have 36 paying for 6. But we have 11 paying for 5. And that's very typical of the demographics of our country since we've urban become more urban. And so we have to address it. What we propose to do is grandfather everybody 55 and older. Now I may have to move to 56 just because we're 2 years down the road. 55 and older on the current Medicare. So if you're currently on Medicare or close to Medicare, you get it for our bill gave it to you for the rest of your life. Rest of your life. But we change it for those in the future. What the president has offered, he says in the health care bill, there's several gimmicks in the bill, but if you believe them, if you believe the gimmicks, just accept it. He says he extends Medicare for 8 years on top of 2 that was going to go bankrupt. So that means if you're 65 years old today, under their bill, when you're 75, they have no idea how you're going to have Medicare. If you're 55 today, well now we'll have to move ours to 56, probably 56, they have no idea if you'll ever have Medicare. Now, of course, they'll say, well, we'll solve it. But how? All they want to do is criticize how we want to solve it. And we want to give people 54 and younger, like I said, that may slide a year or 2, the same benefit that I have as a member of Congress. I don't have a benefit as good as Medicare. I shouldn't. I have a benefit as your federal employees have. Same as your post office person, same as the people, we have the same benefit. Pay $500 a month, have co-pays and deductibles. The premium of $500 would be scaled to income, so some people low income wouldn't pay any. But it changes behavior when you have co-pays and premiums, and it also gives our children a future because it gives them a program they can pay for. And that's what we're fighting over. So when you see it going from point to point and argument to argument, they're trying to convince the other side, and they don't even have a plan. The Senate hasn't passed a budget in 4 years. The president's budget got voted down 419 to nothing in the House, 99 to nothing in the Senate. They didn't address these. And I don't think we can go another 4 years without addressing it. So unless he's willing to work, we're going to have to use these points to try to get big things done. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to be there doing it. I get it. But we don't know of any other way to make him sit down and say, unless you don't believe that's the big issue of the day, which I do think it is. I think our debt's a big issue of the day.